Welcome to Star Wars Action News, helping Star Wars collectors collect better.
I did get a chance to talk to the Hasbro brand team at New York Comic Con, and I really enjoyed this conversation talking about price points of figures and availability of figures and what is to come. So, Matt, thanks for joining us, and we're going to go to that interview. Well, we're here with the Hasbro brand team who put on the presentation at New York Comic Con today. Hello, gentlemen.
How are you doing?
And for those who don't know, why don't you introduce yourself so they can hear your voices and your role with the company?
Sure. I'm Steve Bono. I'm the lead designer on the Star Wars Black Series.
Hey, Arnie. I'm Steve Evans, Design Director for Star Wars.
Hey, Joe Ninavaji, Global Brand Manager, Star Wars.
Now, I have to say today's panel was probably one of the best Star Wars Hasbro panels I've attended in many years.
Oh, thank you very much.
You had lots of exciting product, collector-focused product, and you really were kind of forthright with some of the issues that I know we've been hearing from our listeners and our site visitors about the distribution problems and the X-Wing issues and things like that.
It's important to talk about it.
Well, a lot of the feedback we got as I was live blogging the presentation today was, they appreciated the feedback of, it was a short turnaround issue that kind of caused the lack of figures on Force Friday and things. Is there a timeline as to when the product might, start hitting stores in, quantity?
Yeah, I mean, by early November, we should start seeing a really good, healthy representation at shelf. I mean, we certainly want to get everything out there in time for the holiday buying season. So I would say in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you'll start seeing much fuller shelf pegs.
One question that came up from one of our listeners was, how do you guys feel about the product being released, so many months in advance of the movie, especially given that you said you had a short turnaround time?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. We all sit down with Lucasfilm. We agree when we're going to release things, and we're all on board with that. There's part of me that actually likes it. I like the idea that fans and kids can kind of get this product, start making up their own stories. We've got all these kind of weird and wonderful characters, some of which we've seen in the trailers, some of which we know and have been named, and some of which we have no idea who they are. So there's something kind of fascinating about making up our own stories about them, or trying to hunt out backstories like PZ. That's like, who's this droid? And then suddenly you discover someone's discovered him in the Princess Leia novel, and it's like it kind of creates a sort of a mystique around it, which I actually quite like.
Yeah,
I think it's good fun.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. I mean, the fact that obviously the movies are the nucleus of the Star Wars world, but toys have been such a big part of the brand since the very beginning. And for kids and fans to experience these new characters in toy form first, it's kind of really cool, almost like first handshake with the new trilogy. So I think it's. Yes, it's out before a lot of people know who these characters are, and they're making up their own stories, but that's kind of a really cool opportunity for us and for the fans.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that because BB-8, I mean, he's such a hit across all the lines, and I'm like, nobody knows what he does in the movie.
You see him roll around and peek around the corner.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that the Star Wars Black Series was the #1 selling Star Wars collectible, and I just want to compliment you guys on that. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
No, thank you.
Thanks very much.
And I was curious about the case assortments, because the two figures that I've actually been very able to find has been Finn, who was 2 per case, and Chewbacca, who is a retool from the earlier one. And people are really searching hard for the clone troopers, and I know that I can order online a full case of first order stormtroopers, and I want to thank you guys for letting me do that. But I was curious just what kind of thought process was into the carry forward figures and the case assortments that we're shipping.
Can we give Chewbacca? Is that a carry forward? That's a new sculpt? Is it not?
It's based on an existing sculpt, but it's an entirely new tool and a new sculpt. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is.
But in terms of demand planning and waving and all that,
yeah.
Talk about it.
I think especially with a movie where we don't know. I mean, it's easy for us to say if we put a Vader in there, it's going to sell really well. If we put a Stormtrooper or a Clone Trooper in there, it's going to sell really well. I think as we're approaching a new movie and we're hearing, Finn is obviously a character that's getting a lot of airtime on the trailers. He's very intriguing. He may completely change in terms of fans' desire for him when they see the movie. We're waiting these things sort of blind in a way. We're waiting to see what fan reaction are without, the entertainment fully behind it yet. So we monitor that. We see, what's happening, what's selling, and in the future, as we readjust our case packs, we'll continue to do that. But, it's kind of anybody's guess right now.
Great, and I have a number of questions from our listeners that they sent in after your panel. One question was about vac metallizing, and you guys were kind of talking about a C-3PO in the Black Series, and then I've heard a lot of feedback about the Captain Phasma because of the chrome armor. Is that where is vac metallizing in the process these days? I haven't seen it.
So we're in an interesting situation with certain processes. There are certain manufacturing limitations and environmental considerations to take into account, and vac metal kind of falls within that, and our desire is to create the most authentic look that you can get, and that may or may not be with vac metal. But we've got to do it with the resources. We've got to certainly take care with our environmental issues. So we're developing new paint techniques at the moment that are highly glossy, that doesn't damage the environment, which isn't vac metal. If we did a C-3PO, I want to make sure it's nice and shiny, and I want to make sure it's exactly like you're seeing on the screen. Certainly don't want to deliver a dull kind of just brown painted 3PO, especially at Black Series. It's just not going to happen. So we're pushing hard on finding new techniques that represent the traditional vac metal as we've all kind of known.
And then another question from a UK listener was about the 6-inch kind of hero line of figures, the 5-point of articulation ones. Yeah. Those weren't mentioned in the panel. Are those going forward, and will they have UK distribution?
So we haven't mentioned those yet. So they are a line of figures that were produced specifically for our kind of value segment for certain markets and certain stores within markets. They are minimal. They're 5-point articulations. They are 6-inch scale. They are not Black Series. They're meant to provide anybody, regardless of their economic status, with the ability to get into Star Wars. So yes, they are going to be continuing. Where and when they'll be out, really depends on the specific region and market, because there are certain agreements with Lucasfilm as to where they go. But in terms of for our collector line and our fan-driven line, Black Series 6 inches is a very different offering, and that's what we're focused on for that.
Then the question came up about the 6-inch scale ships. I know that TIE Fighter is just an impressive beast. I've already got one on pre-order. It's starting to show up in stores.
Yeah.
The question was, what are you considering for future 6-inch vehicles? Are you
Star?
Well, that's not specifics. Obviously, you can't announce anything. But what are your plans for the line?
I think to say that we were overwhelmed with the positive response from San Diego for that and the diorama that the team put together. Yeah, we were really pleased with the response. See how they fly off the shelf. I'm very confident. Yeah, sorry, another line. Very confident because we got a lot of people kind of saying that's a good value, that's great value. So I'm confident personally that format at that size is something that we would want to continue. We want to continue it.
Yeah, I'd love to have established a 6-inch vehicle scale that we can continue to expand. Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll need to add on to my house again, but I did love the TIE Fighter.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Another question about the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line. Mm-hmm. The Walmart exclusives, how many waves total are there going to be?
There'll be 3 for this fall, and then they'll continue again in the spring.
Oh, and again at Walmart?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a question that came up quite a bit about the packaging, there's, you guys know, there's a lot of love for the vintage collection packaging you did. And there was a question about, would you consider revisiting that kind of packaging in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this question comes up all the time, and I know our answer is always the same. We absolutely love vintage. It will come back again. It's something that is very special, and it'll come back in the right time. It's our agreement with Lucasfilm, and how we treated this from the beginning was this wasn't meant to be an evergreen kind of thing that was always there. It's a special sort of limited time. It rests, and then it comes back again. So I think now that we have all this new content and all these new characters to sort of fuel a whole new wave of vintage, when the time's right, it'll come back. But for right now, Black Series is our fan-driven collector, offering.
And then a question about the 5PO8 3 3/4 inch figures. The question came in, and I know you guys don't set pricing, that's up to retail markets, but the armor-up figures are so much more expensive than the build-a-weapon figures. And, when you look at something like the Finn that's out in multiple lines, and you've got, basically a $12 Finn versus a $7 Finn.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, is the piece of armor really driving up the cost to virtually double?
It is more expensive to produce the armor than it is for a slug molded build a weapon piece. The mechanism in there, the type of plastic, and the complexity there. I think we've heard a lot of feedback on the pricing and the disparity there, and it's something that we've taken to heart and brought back to the team. So there is a valid reason why it's a little bit of a price bump, but perhaps $5 is not the correct amount.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you very much for the time. I'm really looking forward to what you've got coming out in the next few months.
Thanks, Arnie.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
So thank you to Matt for joining us, and thank you to everyone at Hasbro and Hunter PR for setting up that Q&A. I feel better about Hasbro after New York Comic Con than I have felt in years.
Yeah, it sounds like they're on the right path again, and we're going to see toys. We're going to see toys that we want and love. I'm kind of optimistic now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for watching this video. You can see full episodes of Star Wars Action News with more collecting news and reviews at swactionnews.com. We also have thousands of toy and collectible photos in our photo gallery. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. May the pegs be stocked and the Force be with you.